What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. So today's reaction video, we're reacting to Joe Rogan on what is happening in the brain during the DMT trip.
So let's see what they talking about, y'all.
So let's see.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Well, you know, one of the interesting things about endogenous DMT, and especially with its discovery in such high levels in the brain, is that it may be the endomatrix. It could be kind of regulating everything all of the time.
What do you mean by that? Regulating everything all the time?
It could be the way we interact with reality is through endogenous DMT, which is always at a steady level. Well, it's the way I began wondering about that is because, you know, what is the purpose of endogenous DMT? You know, why does the brain make DMT?
Can you do a DMT test on a person's blood level?
It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard. It's really low in the blood. It's like, you know, billion.
Forgot to tell y'all, disclaimer purposes, we are not telling anybody to go do DMT. None of that. We're just watching this for educational purposes. So, kids, teenagers, adults, don't do it. You know, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But this is just for educational purposes, y'all.
Billionths of a gram per milliliter.
Okay, so you'd have to measure it in the actual brain itself?
In the brain or spinal fluid, maybe spinal fluid, but most likely brain.
When they start doing stuff like Neuralink, where they're going to insert wires into your brain,
Black Mirror.
and, you know, you're going to have an app to control your brain, to control your mood.
Black
it
Mirror,
seems
y'all.
like
Yeah.
that would be one of the ways that they would do it, right?
Well, you'd need to find, you know, where in the brain the main, you know, source of DMT is, and then put an electrode there and keep that going.
Do you think it's limited to one specific area where it's developed?
Oh man, they're just beginning to unravel the whole role and location of endogenous DMT.
So when they know that it's in the liver and they know that it's in the lungs to me sound interesting because of holotropic breathing.
Right.
You know, because people have done breathing exercises and achieved states of altered states of consciousness.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but I think it's not working through the lungs because those more recent studies haven't really demonstrated DMT in lung.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to say it's made in lung. Everybody used to say it's made in lung, but it seems like it's made in brain.
So if it's made in brain, then all the other stuff you're just getting like a trickle-down effect?
Well,
Does it go through the whole body?
yeah, but it's metabolized so quickly that, you know, by the time it gets into the blood that you're drawing, the concentrations are pretty minuscule.
Wow. What a sneaky molecule.
Well, you have to wonder what it's doing, right?
Right, what is it doing?
What is endogenous? What's the function of it? You know, there's the possibility we have a DMT neurotransmitter system, like serotonin or dopamine, in which case, you know, what is it doing?
Wow. So this is a really wild way to think about it, because to this time I'd never even considered that. I always thought of it as being something that was responsible maybe for very vivid dreams, or something that was
That's what I
responsible for near-death experiences, or what happens to you when you die, the
Right.
idea of a portal. But I never thought about it as being something that is regulating regular everyday reality.
Well, you know, one of the hallmarks of the DMT effect is that it feels more real than real.
Yeah.
And you study the function of endogenous neurotransmitters by giving, you know, drugs that modify the effect of that endogenous neurotransmitter. You know, so we've got the SSRI antidepressants, and they affect serotonin, although they may not all that much. But still, that's been the working model for decades. And you know, so you know, because SRIs are useful for depression and anxiety, you then can speculate that serotonin is responsible for mood or anxiety. You know, so the hallmark of the, you know, DMT effect is it's more real than real. It feels more real than anything else. You know, so it's tempting to speculate.
But that, again, when I go back to that disembodied mind thought process of like thinking, like, what am I thinking when I'm over there? Since my body doesn't seem to be there and I'm there, and it seems more real than real, is that me just tricking myself into thinking that it's a different place.
I mean, how could you tell?
How could I tell, right?
Yeah, I mean, how would you know?
I have one way of looking at it that I always describe. This is what I say to people. I say, if there was a thing that you could do, like a door you could go through, and that door would take you to another dimension where you would communicate with some entity beyond your wildest imagination that's constantly visually changing and communicating with you telepathically and knows everything about you, sees all your bullshit, and is trying to impart some ideas that will help you with your life. Because it's a godlike experience. Like you're experiencing like some sort of uber powerful entity, some more uber intelligent entity, something beyond any. If we just looked at humans and thought of the evolution of human, one day we'll get to this. We're not going to get to that. That is a different. It seems like it's so beyond the body. It's so beyond the human monkey body. This is what I tell people. I go, if I could if you would open a door and you would go there and you'd have that experience, would you do it? And most people are like, yes, I would do it. If I gave you a drug that gave you that experience, you still have the exact same experience. It's the exact same experience. You've just decided it's not real. And you've decided it's not real because you're putting it in this category of hallucination. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even...
This reminds me of like when he says it's an outer body experience. It's kind of like your consciousness is like taking control.
Yeah.
Or this is something
It's
beyond.
like your eyes aren't working. It's like you're living in your dream. That's how best I can explain it.
Yes, because I feel like a lot of people, they don't believe things because their body wasn't there.
Yeah.
But when your mind goes there, that's deeper because that's your consciousness, which is your consciousness. Your consciousness is higher than your body. Your body
Because you are
is
not
just,
your body. You are your soul.
Yeah, like this is just like an avatar. Like when you play like a video game or think of like the movie Avatar. Those people went through consciousness just to get to the Avatar nation and the village and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah.
So yeah, you are not.
Body experience. You are not your body.
Yeah.
What does it even mean? You're actually having that experience. I don't know what it is. I mean, I like to play devil's advocate, and I like to think that maybe I'm messing with my own head, and maybe I'm just like, it's like
well, through doing what?
Looking at it like maybe it's just my neurochemistry going bonkers and interacting with my visual cortex could produce these hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't feel that way. That's that's why I'm trying to figure out if you're bullshitting yourself when you're over there, or if you really are over there. But what I tell people is it's the same experience.
Yeah, what difference does it make?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know.
And to me, DMT isn't really a drug because it's already in your body. You have it already in your brain. So you just taking in more than what's already in your body. So to me, that doesn't mean it's a drug. To me, pharmaceutical drugs are worse than DMT.
Because it's foreign to your body most of the time.
I know that I haven't done a bunch of studies on it, but I'm pretty sure DMT ain't ever killed nobody.
You know, previously invisible.
Yeah.
And it contains information.
A lot.
Yeah, and I think that's all you can say about it.
It contains information about you, right?
Well, it could only be happening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not happening to somebody else.
It's like it gives you advice.
It can. But I mean, how do you judge the value of that advice?
Yeah. Well, what is the one of the things that happened to me? I've talked about this ad nauseum, unfortunately, if you've heard this before, folks. But one of my experiences, there was like a bunch of jokers, like jesters, with like jester hats, and they were giving me the finger. They were going like this, "Fuck you," and it made me realize I was taking myself too seriously. Like instantaneously, I went, "Oh, I get it," and they went like this. They went like "Don't do that, don't do that," but like saying "fuck you" to me, it was so clear what they were doing. It was so clear. It was like a little lesson, like "Don't do that."
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, "don't do that." That's like 3 syllables, and they correspond to a heartbeat. You know, when I tripped on DMT the first time, these beings came out of this waterfall and they said, "Now do you see? Now do you see? Now do you see?" It was the same 3-beat thing.
I love you. They say I love you a lot.
I love you, and I think it corresponds to the heartbeat because it's in sync.
Yeah, the high frequency.
Yeah,
I love you.
realizations
You're,
in sync with the
you're
heartbeat.
vibrating at a high frequency.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
The one time I did it, and these entities were talking to me and saying, "I love you 600,500,000 times," like the way a child would say "I love you" with like some crazy number, 7 billion zillion, and every time they did that, it would show a more beautiful image. Like every image, like "I love you 600,500,000 times." I love you 700 zillion 400. Every time they did it, it was just this bigger and bigger experience visually. To the point where I was like crying. I was like openly weeping
Oh yeah,
at the beauty of just what I was seeing.
It sounds beautiful.
It was wild, but it was that simple sort of. There's just like like they'll say simple things to you in a way that you're not really hearing it, but you know what they're saying.
Well, it kind of penetrates you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very weird,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's very weird.
very weird.
Yeah,
You used to not talk about your personal experiences with it.
I know. I figured to hell with it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good that you did that because I remember when we first met, you were reluctant to discuss it. I mean, you didn't really want to talk about it publicly or want people to know about it publicly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I figured that I had some legitimacy to maintain. A few years back, I had this conversation with Dennis McKenna, like about your reputation, or one's reputation. He said, "I've just given up on my reputation. It just, so."
Well, when you talk as openly about psychedelics as Dennis, he's the best guy to talk about it too, because he's got a really interesting way of discussing things, and he's had so many personal experiences, and he's so smart. And he's got this incredible vocabulary to just draw from. And when he describes the actual impact of psilocybin and psychedelic chemicals, particularly in the formation of language, he was describing the stoned ape theory.
The stoned ape, yeah.
It's incredible listening to him say it. Because the way he describes it, like he actually understands what psilocybin and what all these various molecules are doing to different parts of the brain and why that would facilitate the development of language and compassion and connect the tribe more.
Well, I mean, do you think it actually is information coming from the brain? Or do you think, that the portal's being opened up and the information's coming from above?
I think that's more likely. I think the more likely is that the brain is an antenna. It's one of the things that creative people will always tell you. Like someone sits down and writes a song, it just like came from the air. They're getting things from somewhere else almost. And it's almost like you just gotta get out of your own way. You gotta put enough good juice out there in the world and take enough bad out and then see the world from a clear perspective at least in these brief moments of creativity, and then things come to them. They just like they're sitting in front of the computer and bam, they got an idea for a book. Like where the fuck is all that coming from?
Yeah.
It seems like people always want to say it's a muse, like that's the Stephen Pressfield analogy. He's got a great book about it called The War of Art, all about like inviting the muse into your life and being disciplined and sitting there at a computer every day and summoning it and treating it like it's an entity. And if you do that, it works. Like this is what's crazy. Like people who are disciplined and also creative, like that decide, I'm going to write this book, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to force myself every day. Like ideas come to them. Like where the fuck are they coming from? Like is it possible that the brain really is like some sort of an antenna, and that wisdom and love and all these different things they're just all
The brain is a whole universe. So you're getting signals from different portals and different spirits, and all giving you different access to different guides and everything. So when you access these things, you're able to tap in. That's why with musicians, they either smoke a lot before they write something or start rapping or singing, or they'll get really drunk before they start, because you'll tap into different spirits and different portals.
our monkey bodies.
Well, do you think we're getting that information from God?
If that's what you want to call it, you know, the only problem I have with the word God, and it's not really a problem, but it's a recognition, is that it's a loaded word.
It's a loaded word, but so is love.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
so I think you just got to take the good with the bad.
Well, that's Alex Gray's position. Alex Gray says we have to take it back the same way we take back love and say God all the time, and you know that's what he does.
Yeah, and that's the reason I think it's good to use the word psychedelic instead of hallucinogen or
Yeah, I think so too.
entheogen or anything like that.
Entheogen's a cool word.
It's cool. It assumes a lot, though.
Yeah, it's like people that call weed cannabis.
Yeah.
I like to love cannabis. Like, okay, settle down, buddy.
Yeah, like the term entheogen, it refers to God,
Yeah.
theos, and it refers to en, which means that God exists within,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the word gen in it, which means it's a drug which is generating something like God. You know, so that assumes a lot, and there are people who could benefit from psychedelic experiences who might not cotton to those ideas and would avoid an entheogen, but might take a psychedelic.
Yeah, I think psychedelic sounds manageable, and entheogen sounds like you join in a cult.
It's a bit cultish.
Well, isn't everything a bit cultish? It seems like whenever anything, you know, really affects people in a lot of ways, there's always someone who looks to sort of take the reins.
But DMT to me is not a drug, and it helps you tap into different portals and dimensions. And shoot, it's something that's nothing to play with. But you know, if you're able to tap into these things, then you know you should be able to take it.
Very powerful, and like he said, he broke down the word psychedelic, basically saying it's like it's not a drug, but it's a substance that helps you tap into that godlike form. That's what he broke it down to.
Because if you're not able to get into it, just you know, meditating, or you know, if you just want to tap into it, and the easiest way is to take DMT.
Take a substance or whatever other substances they have out there for it. Not encouraging anybody to do something that doesn't resonate with them, but just putting that out there. You know, there's other options. But yeah.
But like, share, subscribe, and comment, and let us know how y'all feel about this video.